and do it again. All right, here we go, going live on Zoom. And
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts with my good friend Myrna Scholar from Florida. How are you, Myrna?
Wonderful, wonderful to see you again. I
Yeah,
think
it's great to see you. I missed you. Well, you did it without me on Monday, but I've heard that went really, really well, but I missed you. I am the author of Surrender to Joy From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the principles of. Myrna just has a new book that's almost out, and I'm super excited to read it. However, I am going to introduce you as the author of this, Private Lessons with Jesus, which is a wonderful companion to the Course in Miracles workbook. So maybe we can even read from Private Lessons with Jesus today, because I know we're on lesson 180 in the workbook. Today is the 180th day of 2024. And that's a wonderful lesson. But I think I will start out with the introduction of my book, Surrender to Joy. And what I wrote in my introduction, the first paragraph of my book states, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world, because what A Course in Miracles is teaching us is to find that essence of God within. That is our plan in this earthly classroom. However, a big part of connecting to our Christ-like nature is bringing the pain points to the surface, and then releasing them. And as I was saying pre-call, I've been listening to a lot of Rob Schwartz, who's a Course in Miracles student. He was with us here in Pal Talk, I think, a couple of months ago. I've been listening to a lot of Tina Louise Spalding. She is a big Course in Miracles student / teacher. And I am listening to, for the second time, maybe the third time, Jesus, My Autobiography. And what I'm hearing in both books, Rob Schwartz, it's My Soul's Gift, I think is his third book that I'm listening to right now, is they're both talking about Jesus and how Jesus was born a man. He wasn't born an enlightened master, as the traditional Christian religion teaches. He was not enlightened as he came out of Mary's womb. He was a man just like anyone else, and he had to overcome his own darkness to reach that state of enlightenment that he attained before he left this earthly plane. So it's just very interesting, because I'm listening to, again, Rob Schwartz talk, and he's talking about how we learn in this earthly classroom through contrast. It's like the Course in Miracles is telling us that only the love is real. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So only the love is real. However, God did not create the world. So the world has the ego. So in this world, we can make a choice. But in order to really connect to God's essence on a ongoing basis, on a consecutive basis, on a consistent basis, we need to release those pain points that we have stored in our unconscious mind. I mean, this is not A Course in Miracles, because A Course in Miracles takes no stance on reincarnation. But I personally think a lot of those unconscious pain points, come from past lifetimes. So when we can have the courage in this lifetime to face our darkness, we can make breakthroughs towards that enlightened state that we're all reaching for. Any thoughts, Myrna?
Well, you mentioned Rob Schwartz, and we're both familiar with him. I became familiar with him years ago, and he really was very helpful when I was writing private lessons with Jesus, because I was sending him the lessons. I had just communicated with him because I had seen him on a program on, it was on Prime Video, on Amazon Prime, and the subject was from life to afterlife. And I just tuned in, and there were other speakers, but he caught my attention, and I played it back a second time because I enjoyed him so much. And I noticed that there was an email posted, and I emailed him and I said this was the best program that I had ever seen on the subject. And he emailed me back, and we started a bit of a communication. I asked him, he asked me if I'm, what I study. I told him the Course in Miracles. I asked him if he knew the Course in Miracles. He said, yes, he did. I told him I was writing a book. I just started the lessons, and he asked that I send him the lessons. And I did, as I was writing them, I was sending them. And after a while, I said, well, I keep sending him my lessons. Is he really interested? So I stopped. And he communicated with me and said, you stopped sending me the lessons. Why? And I continued, and he saw it through till the end, till the very end. And he kept telling me he found what I was writing very, very, helpful. In that he saw that what was coming through was evoking a sense of understanding in him. There was a connection there. So I like that. And then he gave me, he gave me a review on the book. He gave me very nice endorsement, if I could find it. In any event, yes, here it is. I'll read it to you, which I loved. He wrote, in private lessons with Jesus, Myrna has gifted our world with an invaluable resource. The teachings Jesus gave Myrna to accompany her study of A Course in Miracles, though personal, are of universal relevance and applicability. Whether you utilize her book as a companion to your study of A Course in Miracles, or just want to receive Jesus's wisdom and love, this book is a shining gem. So I always kind of valued his opinion very much. And yeah, he's also come up the ranks quite a bit. He's written 3 books. You see him a lot. It's very easy to find him online. And don't we all sort of become driven by the path that we're on, and we shine as a result of it if we keep on the path that is calling to us. In his case, he had an awakening, and he talks about that. He suddenly became overwhelmed one day when he was just walking down the street and started feeling love for everybody. Wherever he went, he had a certain connection of love, which he couldn't explain, but he certainly talks about that quite a bit. So, you talk about Rob. Yes, he is a wonderful addition to the spiritual world that we're exploring, I think.
Yeah, I heard him talk about that awakening a couple times. He spoke about, as you just stated, he was taking a walk, and all of a sudden he felt an overwhelming amount of love for any person that walked by him. And it wasn't like a personal love, it was just a love that he connected to within himself, So it started to extend itself to whoever he came across, even though he didn't know them personally. I mean, when I think about that, that's such a beautiful story. But I also remember times in my own life when I felt like that. And it's just a beautiful state, a miraculous state of mind to reside in, where you can just like love everyone unconditionally, even though you know nothing about them. It's connecting, I think, to that energy source within ourselves. I mean, A Course in Miracles tells us that it cannot teach us the meaning of love because love is who and what we are. The only thing it can teach us is what the blocks to love are. So when the blocks come up, we can identify them, give them to God, and release them. So I think those times when we connect to Christ consciousness, when we have an awakening, it's those times that our blocks are no longer there. The clouds are no longer covering the sun. I mean, that's what the blocks are, right? The sun is always shining. But when those pain points or those triggers or those egoic thoughts, come into our mind, they're like clouds and they cover that love within us. So it's like, how do you get through the clouds? I guess you can just focus on the sun, focus on the light, and the clouds will dissipate. Or you can own the pain. And that's another thing I heard Rob Schwartz talk about in Your Soul's Gift, is that when those pain points come up, the way to the other side of them is by owning the pain. I used to quote, I haven't done this for a few months, come to think of it, but I used to always quote, I think in every single one of my talks, Araya Mountain Dreamer, the invitation. And this is in the beginning of one of the chapters in my book. I want to know if you can sit with pain, yours and mine, without trying to hide it or fade it or fix it. Like sit with the pain. It's not real, but it's real in your mind until you can confront it. Darkness has no power over us, but to know that, we have to confront our darkness. And once we can confront it, we can see that it's not real. Once we can look the devil in the eye or whatever, or the ego in the eye, we're going to see that it has no power over us. And then the next line in the invitation poem is, I want to know if you can dance with joy, yours and mine, without, I want to know if you can dance with joy, yours and mine. Ooh, golly, I forgot that line. It's going to come back to me in a second. But the point here is that we need to sit with our pain in order to get to the joy on the other side. And I think that takes courage. It takes determination. It takes, that's what a kind of A Course in Miracles is helping us to do, is to identify the pain. The escape from darkness. The escape from darkness involves two stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step usually entails fear. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. When you have become willing to hide nothing, you will not only be willing to enter into communion, but will also understand peace and joy. So it's allowing the pain to come to the surface and then seeing that it has no power over you. And I personally think that this earthly classroom it's just, we learn one lesson, we sit with one pain point, and then more pain points come up. And every time the pain points come up, it's just a matter of I guess facing them, confronting them, and then releasing them. At least that's how my life has panned out so far. That's my experience. I know there is a lot of joy on the other side of each pain point. I'm just going to try to think of that second line in the invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. I want to know if you can dance with joy, yours and mine. When I've experienced that, it's just been a very peaceful, joyful place to reside in. And I think we all have times like that during the day, right? When we feel connected to our brother, when we feel connected to God, when we feel connected to ourselves. You know, in my morning meditations, I think I always find that place of peace, love, joy, and acceptance. And it's just a very beautiful state of mind to reside in. You mentioned to me pre-call, Myrna, that you have recently tried some meditative practices. Is that correct? To hang out. Oh, tell me what you tell us what Jesus told you, because I think that's wonderful. If you don't mind sharing, I think that's a wonderful insight you got from Jesus.
Yes. You talk about pain points. The only time I ever really, I shouldn't say, I was going to say the only time I really connect with Jesus is when I'm in pain. But most of the time, that's when I look for him when I'm in pain. I'll ask for his relief, help me release the pain, or I'll actually get him involved in that aspect of how I'm feeling if I'm being, in a state that I'm not particularly happy in. And then I heard him say to me, how come you only come to me when you need me? Don't you want to hang out with me? Those were as clear as could be. How come you only come to me when you need me? Don't you want to hang out with me? Well, what did it mean to hang out with Jesus? That means to be in stillness with him, to resume my meditative practices, which I had given up a long time ago. Years ago, when I started the Course in Miracles, I also became more involved in meditation than I had ever been. And I stayed with it for a while, and then I just stopped. It just seemed to be too much trouble, really. I hate to put it that way, but for me, it was like, well, I have a connection with Jesus, and I know it all, and I am able to control my pain, and I feel the love of God, and that's really enough. But when I started to now become more involved in trying to make that connection through stillness, through a meditative practice in the morning. So I've been doing that for the last, I should say, couple of days. I would like to continue it, but it was a message I felt, and it was a good one. In any event, yeah, you talk about pain, talk about what pain is. Today's lesson is by grace I live, by grace well, actually, the lesson, it's a review, and the review is God is but love, and therefore so am I. And the subtitle is by grace I live, by grace I am released. And I turned to lesson 180 in my own book, the review lesson, and the first sentence says, to live by grace is to live with full conscious awareness. And isn't that true? Live with grace is to be completely aware and if once we can understand that we are connecting to the spiritual connection with all that we are and all that we're given to connect with, that understanding that what is it, it's a great learning device, because we learn the difference between pain and love. I mean, I think that until we become aware of now separating the ego from spirit, that's a very interesting idea, really. When we think that we are we don't know the difference. I think that when during or because of our learning, we continue our learning experiences, how do we learn? We learn from the feelings that we get. We learn, whether we're at peace or whether we're not at peace. I think until we learn that, everything is one big mumble jumble, and we live in the ego's world, not recognizing that there is another world that separates us from the ego, the world where we can experience peace and love. And now to separate the two is what I think my purpose is. And I think that's what the Course in Miracles sets out to teach us. So, yeah. And I think the meditation that you do really, and I admire that, I do. I think what it does is it keeps you aware of the truth. The truth. What is the truth? The truth is the opposite of a lie. A lie is what the ego throws in our path when it wants to control us. We let it control us because we want to. We don't want to give up that part of us that we've created, because it is very much a part of us. And so now we can sort of know that there is another way. And the Course in Miracles tells us that there is another way. And that's what Helen heard. And that's where the Course in Miracles began its roots, with Helen and Bill Thetford.
Exactly. A lot came up to me, very thought-provoking comments, Myrna. In terms of overcoming the pain, and this is something that I heard on one of the podcasts this week, when the pain point comes up, don't act on it, because when we act on it, we perpetuate it. That's what the ego wants us to do. When our pain point comes up, if we just react, what we're going to do is we're going to project it, our pain onto our brother. And that's when conflict arises. But instead of acting on the pain point, what we need to do is, again, just own it, take responsibility for it, just allow it to be, in our hearts. And by I don't know exactly what word to use. I think own is the best word I can think of. When we can just own the pain will dissipate. And we'll see that it has no power over us. So instead of projecting it onto our brother, the way most of us do, the way the world teaches us, this is what the world teaches us, but we just need to take responsibility for it. And that way we can release it. And then we'll clear our channel. Another picture that I found in my gallery this week. I was going through my gallery on my phone to get rid of a lot of extra pictures. And I found an old posting that I did on social media, and I actually reposted it. And I thought this was a really brilliant little insight. This picture, it's a picture of an angel with wings, and she has her arm up and she's looking up into the air. And the text on this picture states, if you want to know where to find your contribution to the world, look at your wounds. When you learn how to heal them, teach others, and what I truly think, I think we don't grow, we don't heal despite our wounds. We don't heal despite our challenges. We heal because of our challenges. Our challenges are the impetus that forces us to grow. So that's why, as Dove always says, when we can be grateful for our triggers, then we will make large strides towards heaven. What is heaven? Heaven is enlightenment. The second half of Orion Mountain Dreamer's poem, which I was trying so hard to remember, and I could not for the life of me remember. It's in chapter 2 of my book. And her poem states, right after that line about pain, because I really think in my own life, I experienced the greatest moments of connection, of joy, of Christ consciousness after I have identified and released a pain point. For me, that's always been a catalyst to grow. And the line about joy, which comes right after the line about pain, is I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. So it's really what she is describing here. It's a state of bliss. It's a state of connecting to God. It's a state of connecting to Christ consciousness. It's a state of connecting to the truth with a capital T of who and what we are. And it's possible to live your life like that. It really is possible. But it's just not easy because it's not what the world teaches. It's not what we're used to experience. It's not what we're used to experiencing here. So in order to maintain that Christ-like connection, I think there's a mental discipline. There's a mental discipline. We need to, I guess, be aware of that negativity and that worry that comes into our mind so frequently here. And we have to choose to change our thought and start focusing on love, start focusing on God, start focusing on joy. And it's about also like stepping into the flow. I think what came up for me in my meditation yesterday morning, it was about accepting my life exactly as it is, not trying to change a thing, and to just realize that God always has my back, and what I'm not, those experiences that I'm not enjoying, I'm learning from. I also think energy attracts energy, so everything vibrates to a certain frequency. So when our energy is lower, we're going to draw more toxic circumstances to us, right? And when our energy is higher, we're going to draw more loving circumstances to us, because everyone is always radiating to a different vibratory frequency. So there are certain situations right now in my life that I don't love, but it's not about resisting the circumstances. It's about accepting the circumstances, focusing on the love in those circumstances, changing my own vibration. And when your energy changes, you will draw situations to you that match your vibration. You have an extremely high vibratory frequency, Myrna. So I'm like so grateful that you're in my life, because every time I connect with you, I can feel my energy rise. You have a very positive, spiritual, Christ-like mindset that you extend.
Thank you.
And it's beautiful.
I think we all have that vibratory frequency. It's a matter of developing it and setting your mind to developing it. And how do we do that? We realize that when we have these situations that daggers are thrown into the path that we're trying to overcome, we recognize it. And rather than fear it, rather than fight with it, rather than go crazy, I've learned to understand what it is, and that I won't entertain it. I try very hard not to. Yes, I think we all have points of or situations where suddenly something can come to sort of sully, the good feelings that we're having. We're in peace, and then suddenly something comes along to hurt that. Recognizing that we don't have to entertain that. We can get away from it no matter what it is. And yes, that will raise the vibratory frequency of where we are. I mean, because life, I mean, everything is consciousness. So we can delve into the consciousness that we are given to feel, then yeah, we do. That's what they call a miracle. That's why this is a course in miracles, because we can all attract miracles, but we have to do that in a peaceful state of mind, and not let anything or anyone, any situation change that for us. People get hurt by what people do, what people say. I hear, women get together for card games, and a friend of mine, my friend Gloria, told me the saga of her situation. But again, she too, she was having difficulty with women in the game. She plays canasta, and I'm not going to get into it, but you know what? I was so proud of her. That's what I love about Gloria. She just found herself another game, rather than get into the wheres and whys and hows and what they did. She just stood up and said, I'm leaving, and just found herself another, another canasta game. I mean, that's so I've learned a lot from Gloria. I really have. And we both really come from, you talk about pain points. I mean, we started out as young adults together. Her husband left her with 3 kids. She has type 1 diabetes. Has overcome so much, really. She got her license as a stockbroker, and she made a living, and she was able to then support herself. But that wasn't without a lot of pain and struggle. She also had she had 3 children. Her husband, as I said, left her with 3 children. Her oldest son died on his 30th birthday, and she had made him a birthday party, actually. That morning, he was feeling chest pains. He went to the hospital, and they sent him home. They said he was okay. And that night he had a heart attack. This was after his birthday party, he was 30 years old. So as I say, she's come through so much, and it's such a joy to be with her and to be her friend. Because she maintains a very spiritual attitude, and she's gotten better through the years. And we've sort of, been there for each other, because it hadn't been easy for me either. I had my situations, divorced and all that. And any event, we sort of lived our lives parallel to one another. And now, years and years later, I find that we're very much in the same place. We've sort of grown together. And so I think that's really very nice. I'm looking at the chat, and
Oh, yeah, I see I'm sorry. Did you see Zoma with her hand up? I didn't
yes,
mean to
Alana.
interrupt you.
Please call on. Yeah, I don't see anybody with their hand up. I see the chat, but if she's
Oh,
ready,
I see Zoma with her hand
then
up. And if
please
she's
call on.
still there, I'd love to hear what she has to say.
Good
She's such a
afternoon.
wise teacher. Hi, Zoma.
Good afternoon to both of you. I didn't have to work today. I told you, Susan, I work on Fridays now, so it's difficult for me to be here, but I didn't have to work today. So I figured I'd come in and listen.
Yay.
There were so many things that came up that I'm hearing. So many things, and I'll have to go back to the chat and see what I wrote, because
Yeah, the last thing you wrote, Zoma, let all things be exactly as they are. ACIM.
which
Love
is what
it.
you said. Yeah, which is what you were saying. And the thing about the vibrations and things that are good, that are feel good, versus the things that don't. Um, I have to at this point go with if I'm letting all things be exactly as they are, all things, then I have to accept that all things are lessons that God has me learn, and that all things are gently planned by the one whose only purpose is my good. all things. So even these things that I don't like, even the moments when I'm not feeling my best, even the moments when I get angry, even the moments when I feel, whatever I'm feeling, that it's still all love, because if God is only love, and God is omnipresent, therefore all there is, then everything, according to the Course, is either an extension of love or a call for love. It's still all love. And being quick to forgive myself when I'm not smiling and laughing and whatnot, when I'm not feeling in joy. It's just something, the
It's
trigger,
almost,
something that, yeah.
you're coming in and out.
Oh, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. um
When accept all things as you are, when I'm not feeling joyful, this is what
regardless.
you were saying. Uh-huh.
Yes, regardless of where I am, it's where I'm supposed to be. And if the triggers show up, as you mentioned, that Dove always talks about, then it's something that I need to look at. What's going on here? What's going on here? And be quick to forgive myself with it and move on, because every moment keeps on. I can create the next holy instant and the next holy instant and the next holy instant. But sometimes the Course teaches the sleep of forgetfulness is the unwillingness to remember. Sometimes I don't remember. Sometimes I'm not being in the habit of engaging with God. Sometimes, my mind is wandering. Sometimes I'm not guarding my thoughts. That's that whole human experience. But I'm forgiving myself quicker and moving on and moving on and moving on. So I do get to smile more, and I do get to appreciate people that care about me, that I care for. Thank you so much, Susan. You are a light in my life, whether you know it or not. You are a light in my life. I keep attracting that, and it's telling me something about me. I'm extending, and yes, it's going out and it's coming back. And if I came in here one day and said, "Oh, I feel like da 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 da," and I'm not da 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 da, I don't expect that you're going to say, "Oh, well, then get offline. You can't stay here." That's not going to happen. I may get a phone call from you to, what's the, anything we could talk about. It's just, it's always all love. It's always all love. And that's what I have to get to, that place that God is all there is. God's will and my will is one will all the time. That's the thing. I am, the Course says that God is literally in all, in all, and I'm in God. So it's just all God. And I don't, and I'm living my life unapologetically at this point. Wasn't always that way, dear God. It wasn't always that way. I'm learning to live my life unapologetically. And I don't want to talk too much because I don't want to take up too much of your time. But
I love what you're saying.
all things are lessons. All things. It doesn't say that some things are lessons that God would have us learn. It doesn't say that that we have to always be so that we, because we're not always acting holy, which because we're not always feeling whole. And whole and holiness the same thing. I'm not always feeling that. So wherever I am at the moment, then that's where I am at the moment. And but I get to look at it and that to reflect on it, which is what at one time I didn't do. I would just go into the poor me stage. I was the victim, you were the villain, and that was that, right? But not anymore. Not anymore. I level it out. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's not. It has nothing. It's not them. It's the way. It's what I'm thinking about them. It's not the situation. It's what I'm thinking about the situation. It's always my thoughts. This is a course in mind training. It's not in how to make somebody else this or hold a grudge because that person over there did this, that, or the other. No, it's about me learning, watching my triggers, and sometimes I'm going to feel bothered. The Course tells us, though, teach that no one has hurt you, which is not always easy. At least I don't voice it anymore, or I'll say I feel hurt because. I don't say you hurt me. I haven't said that in years and years and years. I can't call it that anymore. I can't blame someone else for what I'm feeling. And that's where I am. Anyway,
And
this
I
was
just want to jump in and say I love that, because you're
Yeah,
right.
me too.
I don't, I don't tell people they hurt me either. I don't, first of all, I hate pain. I hate pain. And when I'm feeling any kind of pain or trigger, a trigger is a pain. Just like the Course in Miracles says, there are no small upsets. So I will do anything I can to get out of it. Now, in the old days, how did I think I could get out of it? By causing more pain, by, retaliating or telling people, not holding back in that respect. But yeah, I want to get out of pain, and I can get out of it. I can, and I do. So I just wanted to say
Yes.
that.
Yeah, what Myrna said was so interesting. What Zulma just shared. Thank you, Zulma. Very, very wise words. Um, Course in Miracles is a course in mind training. We are much too tolerant of mind wandering. I love to repeat that line in A Course in Miracles. And something else that really jumped out at me this week on my podcast was this spiritual state that we're all striving to attain. We don't get to that spiritual place by denying the darkness. We get to that spin. I am kind of just repeating the same thing because this is what I'm in the process of learning right now. We get to that spiritual state by allowing the pain point to come up and choosing to love anyway, because it's never about the other person. Whatever they are, whatever this other person is triggering in me, for me to continue to love them and not allow my fear to guide me, to own me, but even though the fear is there, even though the pain point is there, come from a place of love anyway. That is a real spiritual state of mind to reside in. I was listening to I think it was Rob Schwartz talk about the death of Jesus Christ, and when he was in that place where he knew he was going to be going to the cross, he knew he was going to be crucified, there was fear because he was a human, but he chose to release it and stay focused on God. And that's how he was able to change the world. We don't change the world by focusing on changing the world. We don't change the world by focusing on changing what's outside of ourselves. We change the world by focusing on changing what's inside of ourselves, because that's all we have control over. So when Jesus was being taken to the cross, he couldn't change what was going on, but he could change what he was focusing on inside of himself. And he chose to focus on the love and the safety, of God, and not all these angry, hostile people outside of him. And that's how he overcame their projections and their fear, and you can really take that example into any challenging situation that is showing itself in your life right now. And for me, it's it's a pretty consistent classroom. It's a pretty, constant string of lessons that I find myself learning. I'm in this one situation right now where one of my very close friends is basically not talking to me. And I think she's going through her own stuff, I think. But what's coming up for me is my abandonment issues, because I know I was born into this lifetime with abandonment issues and betrayal issues. Like, I know they're there, and they have caused really deep anxiety. I think, I've gone into depression, and I think abandonment was a big trigger. So this is a core pain point that's coming up in one of my closest friendships right now. And again, I don't think she's not talking to me because of anything I've done. I think she's not talking to me because of something she's going through. Intellectually, I know that. But again, I mean, in terms of the abandonment issue that's being triggered, I know that great healing could take place right now if I really allow myself to feel the pain, but not act on the pain and give it to God. Like, I know that. I know that through my Course in Miracles studies, because when we project our pain, the pain is perpetuated, the pain is exacerbated. When we can own the pain, feel the pain, not act on the pain, and come from a place of love towards her and towards me, that's how the pain gets healed. Again, intellectually, I believe I'm clear. Emotionally, I'm working through it. Zoma.
It's time to stop talking about the former abandonment issues, because we feed we feed it, where energy goes, that was the expression, what you focus on expands. What was before isn't now. What was before isn't now. Nothing and no one anywhere ever can abandon you. You know that. And if you really know that, I'm not talking about think or wonder or believe. If you really know that, then you can hold on in prayer to the truth, and trust that whatever it is that's going on with her, keep your vibration as high as you possibly can, because nothing and no one ever can abandon you anymore. Once you decide that's not the case anymore, it's no longer possible. That's all I got on that. I'm feeling your pain here. I'm feeling your pain. I realize this empath thing it's annoying. It's annoying because I'm feeling it. Um, and Dove wrote, if there is pain, there is no God. If God is real, there is no pain. Lesson 190 is what Dove just wrote in the chat. So begin to know that it's an extension of love on your part. If you're in pain, extension of love on your part. And if she's not talking to you, then doggone it, call me. You feel like talking to somebody, call me. We can talk about it. And I'm serious about that. I have your number, you have mine. You have my number. And I mean that. If you feel like it, feel free to reach out. But nobody's abandoning you. Nobody, no one. It's not possible. Spirit is in a state of grace forever, and your reality is only spirit. You cannot be abandoned. Because if you're abandoned, that means that you're separate from God, and that's not possible. It's not possible. Start with that premise that it's not possible, and go from there. And slowly but surely, as you elevate that other stuff will disappear. It'll start to fall by the wayside till it gets to the point where you won't even talk about abandonment, or you'll laugh about it, talking about how it used to be. I'm complete.
Thank you, Zoma. Myrna, and I'm going to repeat again what Dove just wrote, that Zoma just shared. If there is pain, there is no God. If God is real, there is no pain. Lesson 190. Thoughts, Myrna?
Yeah, of course. I know who you're speaking about. We've discussed this person, and we know that it's not about you. It's not about me. So as long as you know that, then it's not it can't be, as Zulma said, yes, we can't be abandoned, that's for sure, but it's never about us anyway. We never, if you can acknowledge the fact that we're reacting to our triggers, and that's pain, and that's, it's never anybody's fault. We're the only ones that can heal that. And so that's something that I've come to say, that it's never about the other person. It's always about me. It's always about my thoughts, about how I'm accepting whatever it is that comes up. And here, if there is pain, there is no God. And that's, those sentences alone really go a long way. If there is no pain, there is no God. If God is real, there is no pain. So once we know that there's no pain in God. There was no pain before we came to this earth, and there's no pain when we leave this earth. It's how we acknowledge our pain during this lifetime, and that we can deal with it because we have the power to alleviate it. And that's what I've learned, and I really find that I can't think of anybody that I allow to trigger me to the point that I feel pain. So that's a very good subject to talk about. You know, as I said, I hate pain. I just don't like pain. I don't like the way it feels, and I'll do whatever I have to do to feel peace. I like it so much better in that place. I do. And then, you know, when you begin to feel, for me, very often when I start getting into peaceful mode, I forget what I was feeling pain about, however fleeting it might be. I forget about it very quickly. So it's bringing ourselves to where we're supposed to be.
Thank you, Myrna. What Zulma wrote previously, I don't think we've read yet. She wrote, every thought you have makes up some segment of the world you see. It is with your thoughts, then, that we must work if your perception of the world is to be changed. If the cause of the world you see is attack thoughts, you must learn that it is these thoughts which you do not want. There is no point in lamenting the world. There is no point in trying to change the world. It is incapable of change because it is merely an effect. Fabulous. But there is indeed a point in changing your thoughts about the world. Here you are changing the cause. The effect will change automatically. It's like that. Thank you, Zulma. Fabulous, fabulous. It's like that analogy about the projector. So many spiritual teachers talk about that. If you're watching a movie and there's something in the movie that's off, you don't go up to the screen and try to change the picture on the screen. You go to the projector and you make a change to the projector. If there's darkness on the screen, you don't go to the screen and try to erase the darkness. You go to the projector and you clean the lens. So when we're seeing something in our life that we don't like, that is causing us pain, we can't alleviate or eradicate the pain by changing that thing in the world. But what we can do is we can go within and change our perception of the situation. The inside, the internal is what needs to be changed, you know, always. And again, to go back to that story that I spoke about before, I mean, the most extreme, amazing example of this is when I just think of Jesus Christ walking to the cross, and I don't know how true the Passion of the Christ was by Mel Gibson, but I did see that movie, and the way Mel Gibson portrayed the walk to the cross, it was horrific. So whether that was accurate or not, I'm sure there was a lot of pain involved in terms of his walk to the cross, but he couldn't change what was happening on the outside. The only thing he could do was do his best to change how he was feeling on the inside, and just hold on to the power of love. And this is how he overcame the world. This is how he transformed our world. I mean, if he could do that, if he could forgive the people that crucified him, I certainly have the power within to forgive all these lesser evils, or these lesser, unfortunate circumstances that happen in my life, because he's my role model, he's my example, and Jesus Christ tells us that everything that he did, we can do also and more. Right, Myrna?
Yeah, the walk to the cross, it's such an interesting subject, because you talked about Tina Spaulding earlier, And she wrote a book, Jesus, My Autobiography. And, she deems herself a channel. I mean, she's certainly getting plenty of credit for that. You can find her certainly on YouTube, or just, put her name into the search engine and so much comes up about her. And what she said is that, he had the ability. Well, first of all, we now know that his walk to the cross was something that he wanted to do. He felt that he had to do to prove what he was trying to teach, which was love. So the ultimate love, right, is forgiveness. Yes, he did forgive those that condemned him. She says that he put himself in trance. This is what she said, interesting analogy, really, because he trusted that God would allow him to stay in that trance until he was dead, because the pain, of course, would be very, very difficult. At that point, he started to come out of at the very, very end, he felt himself coming out of the trance. And that's when he said, God, why have you forsaken me? Meaning that, well, I'm coming out of it. So that was what she had said. And he suffered for 1 second. In other words, he felt the pain for 1 second before he succumbed to death, before he left. So what he was doing, really, he had such trust in God that he would be able to maintain that state without suffering. So that was her thoughts about it, or her channeling, actually. And she talks through her book. I recommend that book, I really do, because this is just looking at it from another viewpoint. You're right, he came into the world a person. I'm sure he had an ego. I mean, just like everybody else does. But he knew there was something more. And through his traveling, he wanted to travel. And he traveled on fishing boats to India and Africa and learned, spoke to sages and so forth. And then he returned to his homeland. And that's why I found the book so feasible, because to me, it made so much sense. You read that book too, right?
I read it twice. I actually listened to it on Audible. My husband read it twice. I think my husband read it 3 times because he likes to read. I like to listen, so I listened to it on Audible. But I think that is the most amazing book, and you're the one who recommended it to me initially. You're also the one that recommended Rob Schwartz. I've learned so much from you, Myrna. Thank you. I love what you recommend. It is 2 o'clock. So our time is up, but it's been so wonderful here. Thank you, Zolma. Thank you, Dove. Thank you, Myrna. I love you so much. I love our time together. I definitely feel more connected now than I did an hour ago. Thank you. Thank you. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. Thank you so much. I love you. And I will return the microphone to Lynn.
And I just want to mention that Dove said, wonderful sharing, Susan.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you.
on people today.
Yeah, Dove's so wonderful. Thank you.
All right, you guys, thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. I love you, love you, love you, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday.